Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone joining in. My name is Jason Assir. I'm with EnergyGigs, and I'm joined by our illustrious guest, Fredrick Kwan, we're gonna talk to you today about sales. First, for anyone new to EnergyGigs, we are a energy-focused freelance platform. We connect energy companies to talent on a just-in-time basis, and for job seekers, we help you find jobs as well. Our guest today, Fredrick Kwan, is a sales expert, mentor, coach, sales professional, worked in the energy space for a fair number of years. Fredrick, do you want to say a little bit about yourself in terms of introductions?
You started saying for a little, and I said, no, it's maybe been too long. Um, I'm from Venezuela originally. I'm a mechanical engineer. I did a bit of a minor in production engineering. Always been passionate about business. I really can't even remember when I was started with interested on the word sales. I don't like the word sales, and we'll get into that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a little bit of me. I'm married, two boys, 11 and 13, and I can't think of when my career will end. I think I will always be interested in business and just doing any type of sales uh,
No.
negotiation or business development or something related to it.
Well, excellent. Well, Fred, if you don't mind, so mechanical engineering by trade. How did you go from mechanical engineering into sales? Yeah, what was that step, that process of going from there to there?
You know, that I think is the hardest part of being in business. People when they hear or read or associate sales, they think of everything transactional. We're I think today invaded with everything needs to be in the moment. Everything needs to be they're giving you in front of you on every single website. Every time you touch the phone, there's something that pops up that you need that people relate, buy and sell. But that's not actually it. When I started more understanding entrepreneurship when I was doing my minor in production engineering, they would talk about how you start a company. What does it mean to have a business model? Why would you need a business plan to go meet your business model? And you start thinking of how many departments there are in a business. So you have HR, you have legal, you have finance, you have, and one of those is sales. But the word's so short and says everything and says nothing that people say, well, how do I get into this? Well, it starts with that. It starts by understanding somebody gets an amount of money and says, I want to start this. I say, well, all right, well, what are you going to target? What industries? What applications? What end users? What interest of people? There is uh, even up to what products and how are you going to go and market them are involved into a bigger picture plan.
Mhm.
And one little piece of all that is at the end, how are we going to get this to people that want to buy it? And that's when you get a sales organization because you start saying, okay, this has to be profitable. We have to control cost. You have operations taking care of that. We need to get it from here to there. You have logistics taking care of that. But then you need a force of people that understand all of that and then exactly how you bring it to someone and to talk about it. And talking about it requires a lot of preparation. And that's how I got into it. My brother was already doing it. He was doing it for a certain product. And I was maybe 2 years behind them in college. I kept learning engineering, but why would I finish my career? What am I going to do after this? And he invited a certain day just to work and say, look, this is what I do. This is how we size and select. This is what this does. This is the importance of it. This is what it controls. This is why it's important. This is who uses it. This is, and he started getting me into, okay, I'm understanding everything he's saying because I know engineering, I know fluids, I know the processes, I know why it's important. So I get to talk to others that don't know or that know and explain to them why it's important. And then they just ask me for a quote. It was like, yeah, exactly. You're basically mentoring people. You're a level of expertise that's out there telling people where they can optimize or where they can use better or how they can get more benefits out of what you're selling. And that's where sell converts into the useful word of it. It's
Hmm.
not that you're out there, uh, and this is for energy mostly because they're all a lot of high efficiency or very complex elements. It's not fruit at the market that you're going after. It's something that really needs a little bit more to understand and a little bit more of what do you call it? Just knowledge or use
Yeah.
of to get it through. I mean, it's not just a plug and play element.
Did you, so when you first started out, were you right immediately into like sales within the energy industry, or did you kind of start in a different space, engineering focused space, and then move into energy? Like what?
I forgot the numbers at that time because it's been so long, and Venezuela has gone through south and in all these years.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind that Venezuela basically lived out of oil and gas.
Yeah.
So we had electric energy out of water, and we had oil in the land and gas. So we basically had 90%, I'm going to say. We had some agriculture, we had some other stuff, but most of it was energy related.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, no, that's great. So you kind of got right into sales. It sounds like sales, like on the product side, or sales on the service. What type of things were you selling? Like,
So, well, and just to finish that other comment,
yeah.
way before we even got into college, you would see an energy companies, oil and gas companies coming into the schools, not even the
Hmm.
colleges, the schools telling you this is the career of the future. You need to be in energy, you need to be in engineering, you need to be in any of these uh, different types of engineering because the country's going to need it. So
Hmm.
basically, you were brainwashed before even you got into college. And not brainwashed, but they would tell you how useful you would be if you were doing a career in engineering. You asked me about product and services, and that's again very interesting because I've always been the one. I was always that one guy in school that would challenge everything and would challenge everybody and would challenge every single teacher to why and the why and why. When I started as a inside sales, people that work with quotes, people that just receive the request and try to understand what are they asking for and what do they need and convert them later into a quote. I was later applications engineer. You do more sizing. You're a little bit more technical, more knowledgeable about what you're working with. Um, I started, I think 6 months, 8 months into the job, I started looking at what the outside sales were doing. They were in front of the customers. Well, sometimes we would, as an application engineer, we would go with them to explain a certain application to a training or a lunch and learn or a so we were just standing there looking at everybody and waiting for our turn to explain what is this, what is that. In my
Hmm.
world, it was control valves, so they wanted to learn maybe how was a specific application was used. I don't know for something, and they would bring me in, and I didn't like that much the travel. I didn't like that much being in the street and the hours that we needed to go because it was maybe 3 4 hours drive to get somewhere and then in the middle of nowhere. Uh, but there was a difference between the people that were there doing maintenance and the people that were there doing projects. So the people in projects or the people on the day-to-day business, they wanted just to replace something. They
Hmm.
wanted to replace an instrument. They wanted to replace a valve. They wanted to replace a regulator. And that was just sizing, selecting, and getting it to them based on the process conditions that they would give you. And then there were the other guys that they were a little bit more concerned on the budget going into replacing, knowing that they had repair shops internally, and they wanted to learn. Well, how do I know how this degrades in time? How do I know this is failing? How do I know if it's consuming more air than needed? How do I know if the power supply is right? How do I know? And that was more on my side of curiosity than sizing and selected that seems so simple and nobody wanted to do it.
Hmm.
So I said, all right, most of the outside sales are interested in the transactional part of just getting a product out to a shelf on the customer side. And when I say a shelf, keep in mind that the manufacturing of the product could be 24 weeks. And we have another people that they have what they need, but they want to know how do they repair or how do they optimize it without the need of waiting 24 weeks for something to happen, or if they have a situation where they can just take care of it, how do they do this? Since those times of signing a service contract or signing a support to any of these companies or just help them out with a service technician or a would be sporadical. They weren't as day to day as product. Of course, the salesperson that has a job and earns by commission, they want the other piece. They want the every single day. The I call it the ink for the printer, although that's kind of going away. It was you needed more knowledge to sit down with them and tell them this is what's going to happen if your element is not performing in this way.
Mhm.
And the minute you can tell them those words, because you were prepared and you had studied and you had learned from your training and your expertise and your experience, the more trust you would gain compared to just giving them a product out of a catalog. So I started to understand that there was two different conversations going on. There was one that was return of investment and was capital investment and was all the financial side and how much is this going to cost and just give me a discount. And there was the other one that was, oh, you're solving my issue. Maybe today I'm not giving you a big order for any specific thing because I'm just buying a card, a board, a piece, but eventually they would say, we have a turnaround. We have, I don't know, 100 of these elements. We can't take care of them all in our small shop. Can you bring in support or can we send them to you?
Mhm.
And that's why we would get $1 million contract or $500,000 contract or a 2 year contract. And it was a lot different because it would take maybe 2 years to get there compared to maybe 6 months to get to a small project and just replace. But then you would be tied in forever because then, okay, these are the guys that resolve our issues. You would be 24-hour on a phone whenever they needed it. But it was a lot worth it because
I
it was just like going to a doctor. These guys are going to save our lives against those guys will send us product whenever they arrive.
gotcha. So it's almost like you could have seen your job as I just sell valves, but you saw it at a higher level of I'm solving a problem. I'm adding value beyond just the actual physical equipment. You're trying to be a higher level, or selling something else beyond just the product, right? Is that?
Well, and when you say higher level, yes,
Mm,
not only on what conversation you had, because it had to be a lot more specific to a solution solving focus,
mhm,
but you would get higher level people involved on the customer side because a plant manager doesn't want an element failing and not being able to resolve it.
mhm,
A maybe a project engineer or a project group, they know it's going to be long term. They know they're going to buy it. They know they're going to, it's more related to how we time this for the product to get here. But you don't see that frequently a concern on, um, let's call it VPs or just operation hired organization uh, players in a decision making players in a customer involved in what happens if the
mhm,
reliability is one of the words that came up. I learned how to speak the reliability language. And of course, they are the one running numbers of risks and running numbers of what happens. So it was yes, a wanting to add more value on my side, but it was also that I identified that I can talk to people at a higher level that would recognize the value of what I was telling them and supporting them with.
mhm,
And that again is back to you start developing trust faster,
mhm,
or you're seen as a person that could be part of, you kind of become part of them in their organization because you're the one that's the go-to person.
mhm.
The company that I used to work with called them oh, they had a name for it. it's like a partner advisor. It was just someone that was there, and you would get into the decision making process of the customer. It was you. They rely on they. Not everybody can have an expertise in every single thing they have in a plant, so they rely on vendors. But then if the vendor is just a transactional vendor, well, all right, they're all the same. Now, if you convert yourself into that person that can add value and save them money, and you can show them that you can save them money and the whys you're saving them that money, then you're just that trustable. But trusted advisor is what they call it. You become
No,
a trusted advisor.
I mean, I feel like in sales, like that's probably the highest sort of honor for a client or a customer to view you as a trusted advisor and not just someone that's selling them a widget or selling them consulting services or software or whatever, right? Like, but like, so how do you move from, you're talking to a client and they see this relationship maybe transactionally, but what do you do, or how do you interact with that customer to help them see you as the trusted advisor? Any tips, like in terms of moving yourself from one state to the next state? Like,
Um, I've been married 16 years, and I've been working in sales over 20 years.
uh,
And I don't know which one of them is harder to maintain trust and keep growing it.
yeah,
It just takes time.
yeah,
You have to be in the good times and the bad times. That meaning if there is money to invest, good, you're there. You'll try to show them that you're saving them as much as possible. But if there's no money to invest, you're taking your time to go do walk downs. Hey, can I help you out? Walk the plan, see if I identify something. I think I haven't done one walk through a process or through a plan where I don't identify. Nothing's perfect. So you can tell them and point out, hey, you have a leak of air in those three valves. You know how much that is costing you per day. I mean, air production, compressors, filters, you might be damaging down the road instruments, and you just send them a short report. Hey, I identified this, this, and that. I think you need to take care of it as soon as possible. Let me know if you need me to quote anything. I'm not pushy as a
hmm
salesperson. I don't think you need to if you're helping them. The customer's not always on your agenda. They're always on their agenda, and you have to be on their agenda, and you build up in those downtimes a reason why they're going to come back to you, and not always you, but at least they're open. Most of them open bids. Hey, we have these many issues with these many elements. We need to open a bid for people to quote on it.
hmm
Now, if you were the one that identified it and you were the one that assessed and you're the one that knows what needs to be fixed, most likely you'll be the one that will quote it more properly. And of course, at the decision making time, they will be able to justify, well, let's do it with X or instead of Y because he's been here all this time identifying and helping us resolve.
yeah, I got you. I mean, just being there, it's almost like a consistency thing of being there consistently, good and bad, allows you to build that trust over time. I guess, for a lot of people in sales, I mean, I think sales does have the word has a lot of creates a lot of mixed feelings in people. But having been in sales, I know it's also it's some people call it like a rejection rich profession. I'm curious about your, like, providing that consistent approach. Like, what tools have you used, or how do you think about your consistently approaching customers when they are maybe consistently saying no, no, or not now, or maybe not ever? Like, what mental tools or scaffolding do you use to help keep that same similar approach to be a trusted advisor? Like,
If this is going to be in the media forever, my wife might hate me for saying this. But again, I'll say I got a lot of no's before I got married.
yeah,
And I always tell her, well, I graduated in sales when I married her, or when she said yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, you have to do your homework. I think when we were starting to talk about this, I showed you what I call the blue sheet.
yeah,
Uh, i- it's a guide to study and approach any type of situation that you have. I don't use it only for customers. I sometimes use it for accounts.
yeah.
I do my homework, or you have to do your homework. And it's not because you want to figure out the weakness of a customer, of an end user, or of a situation. It's because you need to understand if they're, I don't know, I got to go to a company that was in paint business. I did not know anything about, I was more used to oil and gas. But I sat down and did the same process. Okay, what do they do? How well are they positioned in the market? What types of products are they selling? Who are they selling it to? And then just started researching about, right, what's tough of these applications? What's important for them? Is it what they use, what the chemicals they use? Is it energy they consume? Is it the logistics to bring it somewhere else? Is it their network, distribution network? Is it the what is it? You start asking all that stuff, and you do a mental plan of things that you need to keep in mind in front of a customer.
Hmm.
You might just go in, do a presentation of everything that you have in your portfolio, and some of them will might look at you and, well, thank you. See you next time. And that's your first visit. And then you have a list maybe when you go and do your presentation, and you have names. And you might talk, you always have someone that introduced you to that company, or to introduce you to someone in there, and you just follow up. Hey, is anybody interested of any of what I brought? Uh, they might say no. I say, well, can I offer a training now on one specific, or any specific of the products, or the lines, or the services, or the softwares? Or nobody says no to free stuff. And of course, there's nothing, no such thing of free. You are bringing something because at some point you'll have an interest to sell, and they know
Yeah.
it, you know it. But again, I don't use it as you need to buy from me. I use it as there's something here that I might be able to identify that will help you at some point. And you just need to continue to find out who, or where, or what is needed, or will match what it's useful for them. Uh, I've been in tough situations where I get in, I say, I don't want to hear anything about you guys, because you've been coming here for the last 3 years with the same thing, and you are not resolving anything. 6 months later, I tell you, here's your resolution. What else can we talk about?
Yeah.
But it's all right. You might be talking to a director, and he might just have that because their instrumentation people, or their people, are telling them these guys are not helping us, and we're so you have to find who is that person. Not be afraid of getting in front of the issue and say, what is the issue? There's a beauty of having an issue.
Hmm.
The bad thing is not having issues, because then you're there and you're trying to find what is that they need.
Where to add value, right? Like, so you mentioned, I think the blue sheet, and so for the attendees that maybe aren't familiar, so this is the Miller Hyman like framework of selling, and there's you can Google, I guess, online. There's the blue sheet, and I guess there's the gold sheet that has like categories of that you can fill out, right, to help define like comprehensively who the client is, customer is, like.
I'm pretty sure they have formal training, and I'm pretty sure you can YouTube something on it, and you'll find someone that will go through it.
Yeah,
If not, if you really need it, you might reach out. We might do another
yeah,
follow-up episode of this, and just
yeah.
go walk them through it. But it identifies very basic, general information about an account, and industry, and applications, and uh, it goes to the detail even of how much money they might have to invest.
Hmm.
Then it goes to, all right, who do you know in here? What level of importance do they have? If they have a certain level of influence, then it goes through how well are you positioned? Is it a strength? Is it a weakness? What can you bring to the? It goes through times of how many visits you plan to do, or if they have projects listed that they're investing. It just goes through a lot of things that help you get rid of stuff that you don't need and
Yeah.
use what you really need. But again, it can be a good tool depending on how you use it. And then it just depends on people. Just keep in mind that it's like making friends. You'll go out there, it's like anything else, you can have as many tools as you want, you're still dealing with people.
Yeah.
You're dealing with people via media, you're dealing with people in person. And what somebody might be able to tell you virtually might not be able to tell you personally, and then opposite also. You might get more out of someone if they constantly see you helping. Now, if you're there every day, just not talking to them because they're not buying, they'll feel that. They'll know. They'll know that you're just there because you want an order, not to give. And you have to give a lot before you receive.
That makes sense. Makes sense. I know, like, I think Gary Vanderchuk has a sort of a pattern around that, around giving X amount of times before you ask for the business. Well, I'll stop for just a minute. I mean, if anyone has any questions, please do add them in the chat. So your chance to ask any of your sales questions to Fredrick. While we're waiting for that, I guess, so one of the services that EnergyGigs provides is, in effect, like, you think about it, the value that we add for freelancers is we provide essentially warm leads to companies that in the energy industry that have a problem that needs someone to solve it, whether it's a web design project, engineering, field-based, wireline engineering, across the energy value stream. We sort of provide these projects where we know there's a known problem. So I guess we'll give you just sort of two scenarios. So one scenario is like you're given a warm lead. So what would you recommend or advise to potential freelancers, independent consultants, small firms who have that warm lead? Like, how should they have that conversation with that prospect?
Somebody that's starting with a company that has something and they just got that lead and just
Yeah.
walk to that company with it.
Yeah.
Again, it's your homework. If you are an expert, if Energy Gigs is providing a pool of experts into a company, or just one into a company, that person should have in their what I would bring in my toolbox would be, right, projects related that I've worked on. That would be the first thing. Like, that immediately shows this is my experience and this is why I know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the first thing. The last, I'll start. That would be the first, and the last would be contacts that they have already made sure that they can properly make referral letters so that they for those jobs they did. And then, of course, is the willingness to listen.
Yeah.
Once they know I've worked on this, is you need to find out, where do you want help? I know you're doing this. I know you're working on this project. I know you're interested. I know you're moving forward. I know what are your identified issues right now, if there is any, or what is that you want to achieve out of. So you need to start listening, doing what they call open questions. It's
Mm-hmm.
just asking, inviting them to tell you a little bit more about what's important to them when they're developing whatever it is that they're developing in that lead.
Mm-hmm.
That would start on giving you, right, the what's important for them. And then, of course, immediately is, guys, who's related to dealing with these things, so you can follow up with what are the teams or who are the people that are working for. And then, of course, I haven't said at any of these conversations anything about asking for money or how much they're investing, or it's just resolving their issues first. Is
Yeah.
once you start understanding that you're becoming the person that's going to help them in what they need, or even sometimes helping them identify, because that would be like the third or fourth thing. I've noticed that you're not considering this or that, and that was key for this or that project where I resolved this or that situation. Is that something that we need to consider here? And that way you start using the closed questions on yes or no. So you start, okay, you don't want this, you don't want that. Well, tell me a little bit more. What is that you may want as a outcome? Are
Mhm.
you increasing output? Are you decreasing cost? Are you reducing waste? Are you so that just guides you in that if you once we talk or see what's in that blue sheet, you're basically answering those questions.
Mhm.
It's the template that I have built and burned in my head where I just go square to square, asking and making sure, right, is there, you can't go and ask them, is there anybody against inside your company that's not
Yeah,
helping you out with this
they're
project?
not gonna be able to tell you that. Yeah.
They're not going to tell, but I mean, is financial a struggle, or do you have this project approved by? So you just need to find out the best way to ask things that would help you help them. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
you're just
Mhm.
trying to, with your knowledge, bring something to the table that's different from someone else that's telling them, "Oh, let me see. Well, you know what? I'm going to need 1,500 hours to start working with this, and it's going to be at this rate per hour, and they have a number of how much it's going to cost before you're even telling them what is it you can do."
Mhm. Well, that's great. I guess I have one last question I have is now, if assuming, a lot of the people on our platform have their own businesses, they're independent consultants, and they kind of use us, strategically to augment their sales pipeline. But let's just say they're not on the platform and they're approaching a brand new contact, um, like cold in effect. Like, what do you think? What's sort of the top thing they should be thinking about when reaching out to someone brand new that they don't have any? There's not a warm lead, and it's sort of a cold, it's your first approach. Like, what would you say is a recommended way to approach that person?
I think that's one of the toughest things there is ever. I've had to do it maybe 2 times in my life because I
Mm,
learned that it's so hard that I
yeah,
prefer to really go, and today there's so many tools to navigate
yeah.
where you can find someone related, and not something, someone related that can open the doors.
Mm,
A cold call just going in somewhere, with, uh, whatever it is that you're gonna offer just requires patience, just requires that somebody's gonna give you maybe 2, 3 minutes. That's why they tell you need to have your elevator speech, what they call it.
yeah, yeah. Pitch, yeah.
But still, you need to do homework. The best thing you can do is preparation, not waste anybody's time. Find out. Don't be afraid of, hey, if this is not what's in your interest right now, do you think that there's anything else that might be related that you might need help with? I'll prepare again and come back later.
Hmm.
But you can't think that that's your time. It's never your time. It's their time.
Hmm.
But cold calling is, I think, one of the hardest thing to do. I used to work with a guy that would just go and sit in the lobby and wait for someone to show up and bump out of his, "Oh, how are you doing? I'm here. I'm from such and such, and I want to talk to you about this." Not my style.
Yeah, it's that's tough. That's pretty rough. Um, well,
But it's
yeah,
the same. You would still do the same checklist. Is if
yeah.
you're going to, if somebody opens the doors for you, you try to have good use of their time, and you try to make sure that it's of their interest. If not, do you know someone that this could I can help, or I could provide any, if not now, do you think there's any time, or if you're busy right now, that I can come back and maybe prepare something more in detail or something different, and just always ask for another. I think we also touched in, nobody's going to remember your name, but after maybe the 6th or the 10th time that you've visited. Uh,
Yeah,
and if you're bringing something that really adds value, they'll remember your name if you make their life a hell the first time you see them.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Well,
But you're never going to talk to them again.
no, that's right. I mean, I think there's the stat like from the National Sales Association that says that 80% of sales are closed after between the 8th and the 12th. No, the 12th and the 20th touch. So it kind of, like, to your point, like, you don't want to, if you burn the bridge on the second or the first touch, you got to kind of follow up. It seems like. Um,
Follow closely their LinkedIn until they change jobs and then go back, because most
yeah,
likely while they're there, you're not gonna you're not gonna
yeah.
get a chance.
There, um, Well, I know we're actually 5 minutes over, Fredrick. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today and talking about sales and in the energy space. If anyone wants to reach out to you, can they reach out to you via LinkedIn, or what's the best way to reach out to you? I guess they can connect
Yes.
to you on LinkedIn.
And you can connect, you can use my email if you want. You can,
Okay, yeah,
that would be good.
okay,
Uh, no, thank you for inviting. Time went so fast.
yeah,
Uh, I guess in sales you get to chat a lot of what you know
yeah,
or you think you know,
yeah.
but that's good.
Well, awesome.
Good
Well,
luck.
yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for attending. And we'll be in touch soon with the next webinar. I believe next month we are looking to do something around carbon capture in partnership with Decarbon Fuse, I believe. So look forward to seeing you guys all then next time. All right. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.